Hi, Kelly. So I'm really happy that you agreed to come on my podcast and have a chat with me today. So Kelly joined my Perimenopause and Beyond group a few months ago now, isn't it?
Yep.
And she's really good at interacting in the group and sharing her story with her peers that are in there, letting them know what she's been through and what's worked for her. So when I put out a post saying who wants to come on my podcast, Kelly goes, yeah, me. And I'm so happy that you did, because I know that you've got a life story to tell that a lot of ladies are going to relate to, are going to learn from, and then it's going to make them think, I'm not alone on this journey. There's other people out there as well. So can you tell us a bit about yourself? What's your story? What's your background? And yeah, let's chat.
Oh, well, first of all, thanks ever so much, Jay, for inviting me on today. And it's a real privilege to be able to sort of speak to you and share my experiences. And hopefully, we can sort of encourage other people to come forward. And maybe, my story might resonate to some women out there, and they might want to go and seek some help and think, actually, that's me. Yes, so thank you for inviting me along. My story, wow, okay, so when did it start? I think for me, I've always been very people's person throughout my whole life. If you look back at my school reports, which I've still got, every single one of them from almost nursery says, Kelly's a chatterbox. She loves engaging. She loves sharing her story. She's very dynamic and very animated. But sometimes she does kind of wander off and go away with the fairies a bit. But I always did well at school. I never I struggled, I suppose. Maybe some of my friends found subjects a lot more easier than I did. But I was always able to kind of claw that back. My life really has been relatively good. My mum and dad, we had a lovely childhood. My parents separated and got divorced when I was quite young, 13, I think. I had a younger brother. But in terms of their relationship, my parents were very good friends right up until the very end. When my dad passed away, my mum was there with him. And, we were always brought up with a very lovely, nurturing family environment. Grandparents are very much involved in us. So school for me was a challenge at times, but I suppose being a kid from the 80s and 90s or 70s babies and going through school at 80s and 90s, I didn't think anything more of it. That was school and that was the way that it was. And then I joined pharmaceuticals very, very early on. I was 21, I think I joined, so 27 years ago. Joined pharmaceuticals, was very independent, very headstrong. I was a confident character, did extremely well in my profession, what top 1% globally for Johnson & Johnson, and always doing very, very well. But I really strive for perfection because that was me, that was what I was about. And then, relationships. I look back now and I think actually, I've had quite a few relationships, and I suppose to start with, I sort of fell heavy and hard in relationships. Maybe that came down from my childhood where I was told by my parents, you're a bright star, you're very intelligent. We don't need to worry about you, Kelly. You're always doing well at school. My brother used to say to me, oh, I'm always getting compared to you at school, Kelly. They say to me, the teachers, why can't you be like your sister? So I think there was this pressure all the time to be perfect, I guess. To be perfect. And it's not until recently, since I've been going through some sort of psychotherapy and talking about this, I'm starting to realize that actually these little things actually lock into your brain and you hold on to those comments. And at the time I felt probably that my mum and dad were complimenting me. You're not a problem, you'll always do well at school, we don't need to worry about you, we haven't got to spend our time nurturing you, your brother is maybe not so academic, so we need to spend more time with him. And I guess I thought, well, that's kind of nice, I'm non-problematic, I'm doing well, but I think looking back now, the expectations then for me to carry that on, because I wasn't allowed to have a bad day, because if I was suddenly a rebel or did something wrong, it was shame on you. We expect that of your brother, but not you. So there's always this very kind of like high level. And I think as a child, it's not until I'm an adult now and a mum myself, I can look back at that and think my parents had probably no intention of making me feel inferior or, rejected. But I suppose maybe because I was doing okay, but I was really, really having to put the work in to do okay. I wasn't just finding it naturally like some of my friends were.
Yeah,
Um,
they
I
obviously
felt
didn't
maybe,
realise that, did they?
yeah, I guess I was a little bit resentful at that, and when my adulthood came in, I started to become a little bit resentful at that. It's like, yes, okay, I've done well. I'm an A-star student, but it's been really hard work, but we don't need to worry about me, do you? As long as my brother's okay. So I think that's where a little bit of resentment came in as well. Um, so this probably all kind of came to a head with me about 18 months ago. And my marriage had failed. My children, I've got twins. I've got boy-girl twins who were born 2.5 months prematurely. We
Wow.
knew from my 14-week scan. Didn't know we were having twins until the 12-week scan. It was a complete shock. But at that point, I just thought, boom, this is brilliant. I've got twins. I can't believe my luck. And I remember from that day onwards, the pressure was there. The pressure was there from my ex-husband's family, from my family. It was all around, you're carrying cargo, you're carrying a precious load, you need to go and sit down, you can't do anything, you shouldn't be going to work, you shouldn't be doing this. The expectation was for me to just suddenly sit on my eggs and nest them. And it was intense pressure. And all of a sudden, it was about, me being this carrier and this protector and this nurturer. But people weren't really concerned about my health. And my doctors were like, look, this is a high risk pregnancy. Your class is a geriatric mum. I was 38 when I was pregnant with them. This comes with associated risks. Yes, it's lovely to be pregnant with twins, but we need to be mindful of all the medical side of things as well.
Did you
So
struggle getting pregnant?
yeah, I did actually. Probably because I was quite headstrong again. Going back to my relationships, I remember when I first got married or leading up to my wedding, there was a lot of pressure from my ex-husband's family to sign prenuptial agreements. Lots of different things were going on because they have businesses and different things. So there was all this pressure, and I was very much like, I'm going to keep my identity. I'm not going to change my surname. I want to be Kelly Murchison. That's who I am, and that's my identity. So straight from the outset, I think, there's very much a resistance there to be this daughter-in-law they probably wanted and these expectations. So I left it. My career was paramount. That was something that I was really good at, and no one could take away from me, that I'd worked really hard for, and I built this up myself. So I kept putting children on the back burner, thinking, yeah, one day I'd like to be a mum, but it's not my top of my priority list. So I left it late. I did leave it late. And also there's another thing actually as well, which is quite interesting, which I've found out since. I was diagnosed about 7 years prior to getting married. So this would be back in 2007 or 8, something like that. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I just suddenly got taken into hospital one day, bleeding profusely, and got taken in. And I remember when I went through all the follow-up from that, the consultant said to me, don't leave it too late to try and get pregnant, because there's an association with ulcerative colitis and stress and the whole bacteria, microbe and everything else. Didn't really think much of it. I thought, yeah, okay, whatever. So anyway, consequently, I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Then we got engaged, we got married, and then it was like, right, need to get pregnant now. That was the next kind of tick box of what we had to do. So yeah,
Again,
don't
putting
get me
pressure
wrong.
on yourself. That was, wasn't it?
100%.
To get pregnant.
And I was doing really well at my job at that time as well. When I got pregnant with my children, I was working for a big pharma company, and we were launching a brand new product into infectious diseases, and the pressure was on to be sort of the best that you could be, bearing in mind I'd done well in other companies as well, and that's why I'd been taken on with the role. The expectation, the pressure on my shoulder was intense. And I just think, my ex-husband, for whatever reason, he just didn't understand those pressures, and everything was on my shoulders. But I suppose I was always entrenched with this: I have to be perfect. I have to have a perfect home. I have to be perfect at my job. I've got to be a perfect Stepford housewife. Everything had to be perfect. And God forbid if Kelly made a mistake, because that was just not the normality. So, I got pregnant straight away. This pressure was on. My ex-husband's father, my ex-husband's father, my ex-father-in-law, he was dying as well at the time when I was pregnant with the twins. He'd been given like 3 to 6 months to live. So we had that pressure as well of me trying to deliver the children so he could at least get to meet them before he passed away. So there's lots of things going on, loads of stuff going on in my personal life as well, with marital issues as well, was starting to manifest as well at that point. We were buying a new home that we had to move into because we were having children, and we went from my 2-bed cottage to a 5-bed house, and there was loads and loads of stuff. It was all on my shoulders. So I think if I look back now, that's probably when the cracks really started to show in my life. Up until that point, I was probably in control as best as I could be. I was able to deflect these comments around, oh, you're perfect, or you're this, or you're that. I was able to deflect it and kind of mask it, which is what we do in ADHD. Women in particular, we mask our symptoms very well. Yeah, and then obviously the twins came along. With that came sleepless nights. With that came the added pressure of then having to organise not just my own diary, but my ex-husband. I was now off on maternity leave. You're not working, Kelly.
You've got all the time in the world.
Yeah, you've got all day to sort out dinner and do the shopping and this and that and keep the house perfect and, put your makeup on and everything else. And, so that was always there from the outset. But I think as well, the fact that they came early, and again, I've talked about this in great length with my psychotherapist, and it was comments like this that I just kind of shut away and bottled up, but I didn't realise how much they'd hurt me. It was little comments when people came to see the twins in neonatal, and my mum, I remember, bless her, she certainly didn't mean anything nasty, but she just went, oh my God, they're so tiny, they're like little rats, aren't they? And they literally were 2-pound transparent babies. My mum didn't mean malice by it.
Yeah, she wouldn't know, would she?
Totally. But I suppose when you've just had a baby, your hormones are like, crashing down anyway. And you've got ADHD without knowing it, with rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is what my combined ADHD is. A comment like that, it sticks, and you just cannot get out your head. And my mum is mortified at what she said. And, her and I have spoken about this, but it's just little things like that. And I look back now and I think, yeah, that makes sense. That's why I was so super sensitive to those kind of comments. And, I remember being in hospital leading up to their birth. I had preeclampsia, and everyone was coming to me saying, you need to hold on tight, Kelly. You can't give birth to them yet. You need to keep these babies safe. But nobody cared about me. Nobody sort of. And I remember when I went into theatre, it was very much, there was no, there was no kind of like, you have this bubble in your head, don't you, when you find out you're pregnant and everything's textbook perfect, and you get the cribs and the clothes and you're so excited. Everyone thinks you're such a hero for being pregnant. And then all of a sudden my journey just came to a crashing halt where, we thought my son was going to be born dwarf, potentially, or Down syndrome, or dwarfism. We didn't know what to do about that. Do we go ahead with the pregnancy? We can't just, but they couldn't tell me which baby might be affected. So it'd be like Russian roulette. You abort both of them, or do you carry on with the pregnancy? But there could be risks to both. There was so much pressure. Yeah, and this all of a sudden, this beautiful fairy tale, this fantasy of being this wonderful mum and everything being wonderful just went wrong. And I was scared. And, I think
if I'm wrong, let me know, but you probably felt guilt as well for leaving it long, blaming yourself for these things.
100%. Well,
on top of what everyone was saying.
Totally. And then, so you get through that stage, and then they are born, and you're relieved that they've come out and they're alive. But then your neonatal journey starts for 3 months. You know, it's ups and downs, ups and downs. One day they're doing really well. Next day they've been put into isolation because they've got respiratory viruses, and we don't know. This is touch and go. Then Matilda, you know, she had like a heart problem, and Oxford were involved, and Great Ormond Street were involved. So the whole neonatal journey is very bumpy anyway. But you just kind of go along with it, you know, you're just in it. And I think because I'd always been striving perfection, and my mum, you know, obviously terrified, what's going to happen to the children, are you going to be okay? My ex-husband and my ex-husband's family going, well, the babies are going to be right, the babies are going to be okay, and, you know, and the pressure on me was like, well, if they're not okay, is it something that I've done? You know, am I going to be blamed for this for the rest of my life? So there was so much pressure. And I think because I'm such a strong character, I didn't allow anybody to see that pressure, you know, I just kind of just masked it. I was
and then they would carry on because you're masking it. They don't rein in their behaviour either, because they don't know they're doing anything wrong because you haven't told them.
Exactly. And, you know, and then fast forward a year after the twins were born, I remember going to work one day, and I was working in London. I was doing a big presentation to the Royal Free, to a load of consultants and senior doctors at the Royal Free. And I remember standing there on stage about to present this clinical paper, and I just completely froze. And my manager luckily was there that day, and he called me off the stage. He went, I'll do it. And, you know, we got back to the station, and I just said to him, I said, I can't cope, Neil. I just can't cope. I wanted to go back to work, to get back to being Kelly again. I needed to have some normality. The pressure financially was there as well. I had to go back because I was earning quite well. And I pushed myself probably. I wanted to be Kelly again. I had this identity that I had to be. But at the same time, I was now a mum, you know, not just to one baby, but to 2 babies. And, you know, they obviously were under the care.
You're never going to be Kelly again that you were before, because your life's changed so much. You're going to be a new Kelly, an equally amazing one, but a different one.
Yeah.
And I suppose that puts you in the frame of mind of realizing that, because you don't know what you don't know, do you?
Yeah. And I agree, you know.
If I go back to that, then I'm going to start feeling okay again. But, you know, obviously.
Exactly.
It's not that clear, is it? It's not that.
100%. You live in this rose-tinted glasses. You think, oh, my life then was so good. You know, we had all these holidays every year, and we did this and we did that. But all of a sudden, you know, it's wonderful to get pregnant, and everybody, you know, it's so exciting. But I suppose for me, at 38, to be pregnant thank God it's happened. But then to say you've got 2 now on the way, you've got double the pressure, you know, double the financial pressure. And I was very much a career girl, you know, we hadn't really sort of thought this through properly. It was all very much of, well, we're married now, this is the next step. So it's kind of had to be done. And I just felt like I was just this oven, you know, I was just producing, you know, these babies to fulfill a gap that was there. And it was like, what about me? No, again, nobody sort of thought about me in this. It was all about the babies, like it was my brother when I was younger. And it was all about, you know, Kelly, you know, you've done this before, you're a strong person, you can get through this. And I think the pressure that I carried was just immense. And then a year after they were born, as I say, I hit real rock bottom, and I was, you know, had postnatal depression diagnosed. And it was horrendous. And I look back now and I don't remember much part of my life, really. It was a blur, very much a blur. And I think, you know, had PND diagnosed. I'd always been a little bit, I suppose, with my hormones and my emotions throughout my whole life. I'd always been a bit sort of very dramatic, quite emotional. If somebody made a comment to me that was slightly negative, I suppose I'd take it so more personally than maybe the next person did.
You recognize that on your cycle? Like
I do now. I do now. Now,
recognize it before?
No. Now I've obviously had the diagnosis of ADHD, 100%. It all makes perfect sense. But at the time, I just thought, what is wrong with me? You know, people say, but Kelly, calm down, stop being so dramatic. I'd be like, oh, it's just the world's coming to an end and that's it and nobody understands. And I was very, I suppose, over dramatic because that's what ADHD is like. And that's
Yeah.
what a lot of women
Knowing
are
your
finding.
hormones.
Yeah, and hormones. You go, if you think about it, Jo, our hormones affect us from probably the age of about 9 upwards. And
Yeah.
that's it. We probably get about 9 years of our life as
Yeah.
a woman where
Where it's
we are
not
just
affected.
ourselves,
Yeah, I
And
know.
then all of
Horrible
a sudden, I
statistics, isn't
know.
it?
And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
no, it's so
that is
easy.
it. It's like game over,
They
girlfriend,
don't know they're born.
Exactly. Game over. You've had your 9 years of fun. Now it's the adolescence. Now it's the puberty. Now it's the teenagers. Now it's the 20s.
Pregnancy,
Now it's getting pregnant. Now it's the
motherhood,
crash of hormones after being pregnant. And it's just like,
menopause.
and then you just come out of that cycle. It's like, oh, congratulations, you're now perimenopausal.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you very much indeed, and you just, do you know what I mean? We just don't
Yeah,
get a flipping break from it.
we don't, do
From the
we?
age of 9, that is it. Our fun
Yeah.
is over. So we constantly have this battle as women to battle with society and all the external factors, but internally,
Yeah.
we're all so struggling at different stages,
And then with experiences like you're talking about, we put the added pressure on. So yours was like how your mum, bless her, brought you up thinking she was complimenting you all her life, but put that added pressure on you. So not only have you got that, hormone journey,
cycle of this
we
peaks and
had our
troughs.
own issues in, don't we, of what we've told ourselves. And
I think, as
mine,
well, Joss, I've been thinking about this quite a bit recently as well, actually, because obviously I was born in 1977, so I'm a 70s baby, but the tail end of it. And I've been watching Call the Midwife. I love it because I love the different eras and I can really resonate to a lot of that. And I think, you know what? My mum was a 50s baby. She was born, 1950 she was born. So again, in that day and age, she was quite an older mum. She was 27 when she had me, which was classed quite old, actually.
days.
Most people had their children around 21, 22. So she was an older person. And, I look back now and I think, my mum came from a family. My dad was, very academic. He was an only child. He went to grammar school. He always did very, very well. He was a pilot. He learned to fly when he was very young. So he was a very, everything was kind of given to him because he was an only child. Mum grew up with 2 older brothers. My grandfather was in the army. So it's quite a regimental household. And I think my mum has just got that kind of, never complain, never explain kind of sort of, persona. That's just her personality. And I think, when I sort of delve into this, I think, this is probably why women of my sort of age now, where late 40s, early 50s, we sort of struggling with this because as children, one, ADHD was not a thing. It wasn't
Yeah.
really a thing. We just thought people were naughty or inattentive or what have you. But also, you didn't sort of discuss things like that in families,
Amazing.
and we are a different generation. I'm very much the mindset. I talk to my children and say, if you want to cry, William, just because
Yeah.
you're a boy, let it out, darling,
It's our generation, yours and mine. We're here, I believe, to break the cycle and to
100%.
make the change so that the next generation have it easy. I
Yeah.
mean, the next generation of girls
Mm.
are going to learn about, I hope, and I believe it will happen. They're going to learn about perimenopause
Yeah.
in school, and the boys too,
Oh,
because the boys need to know about it as well. I mean, the boys, when
definitely.
the boys understand it,
Mm.
then it's going to help all of us as well. So
Mm.
I think that's why I'm so passionate about getting the word out as well, because I want the
Oh,
next generation coming through
I'm
to
with
know
you.
what to expect so that
This
life
is
gets
why.
easy.
This is why, your Facebook page, I just drew to it straight away because you're not, you don't enforce advice on people. You don't go, well, this is my approach and this is what you should be doing. You're very holistic. You're very open-minded. There's no, as you say, and I always try and get this point across whenever I comment, there is no one shoe that fits all. We're all
No.
very different. We are all so unique in this journey. What suits me in terms of HRT won't suit the next person. Just because we're the same age, we're born on the same day, we've got similar backgrounds, we all have to have things tailor made. And I think, going back to, my childhood and all that kind of stuff, the biggest challenge for me actually has been trying to educate my family and my mum in the fact that I've got this condition. And straight away she just went, "Oh, it must be my fault then, mustn't it?" I went, "No, no, not at all, mum."
Mm.
"Oh, you're just blaming me now, aren't you? It must be something that I did as when you were a child." I went, "Mum," I went, "it's just a neurodiversity, but
Yeah.
I'm okay. I've done well in life. I've succeeded." But what you have to understand is the reason why a lot of us are being diagnosed later now is, one, because there is no more awareness around it. And I always have these discussions with my women's health advisors. When you're assessing a person, obviously nowadays the NHS, it has to be done on clinical symptoms. The sort of the follicle stimulating hormone, the FSH hormone, isn't really endorsed now so much because it's very inaccurate, because your hormones fluctuate on a daily basis. So,
Mhm.
a lot of it done is now on clinical symptoms. But at the same time, is there maybe something else that this woman is kind of, masking without her knowing it herself? So,
Yeah.
our hormones play such a massive part, and we know from clinical studies, and I've been reading so much into it, when you are a woman who is going through the menopause or perimenopause, and you've then got a crash in, cortisol, dopamine, all these other hormones, that's when these things manifest. And that's when your mood swings go
When
mental,
the fireworks happen.
Oh, the overwhelmingness as well. ADHD. The biggest thing for me was the emotional dysregulation. I could go
Yeah.
from 0 to 100 in a minute.
Yeah. And it
Um,
affects everyone around you, whether it's in the home, in the
oh,
workplace.
yeah.
It affects all parts of your life. And then
Mm,
I know there's some ladies in the group are just in despair. So
mm.
much so that they stop leaving the house.
Yeah,
They don't
I was
go out
like that.
anymore.
I was like
It's
that. I
so
went from
sad.
this confident person who was doing exceptionally well at my job and being, the top 1% in Johnson, all the rest of it, to almost having agoraphobia. The
Yeah.
thought of having to go to school, to take the kids to school, was like, it was just, the anxiety was overwhelming. The thought of having to get on a train to go to London or sit on an underground, on a
Yeah.
tube,
You
I
wouldn't
was
have
like,
thought anything of
can't,
it
no,
before.
can't
It's
do
like
that. I
yeah.
know. And it's the most
Yeah.
horrendous feeling. I think, again, the biggest thing is about educating GPs, because there was a massive lack of education. And again, working in women's health in the past, I have done, a lot of male GPs used to come up to me if I was at stand meetings or, it's like British Menopause Society meetings, and they'd come over and they'd all say, "Oh, I'm a small practice, in the outskirts of Scotland. It's just me and another female GP. And, I keep getting these women turning up going, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm crying, I'm emotional, I'm aching every day. My mood swings are really up and down. My sex life has crashed. My libido's not there. I've got, I just don't feel myself." And male doctors, they'll be very honest and go, "I don't know much about it. Can you educate me on menopause?" And I think, fair play to the women out there. They're coming forward now and they are seeking more help. But we have this disparity in the ratio of GPs being able to service that requirement.
Absolutely. There's so many ladies in the group as well that have gone to the GP exactly that and say, I keep crying for no reason. What's wrong with me? And they're just put on antidepressants. And
Antidepressants.
they have their place. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you can't. It just infuriates me that
Oh,
even if they
massively.
mention, could it be perimenopause, and they go, how old are you? And you say, I'm 39 or
Yeah.
41, and they go, oh, you're too young. Here you go, take these. It
Yeah.
just infuriates me. Absolutely
Quick fix.
infuriates me.
Quick
And this is
fix.
what we need to
you know,
change.
and if you look at the women's health strategy that, Dame Leslie Regan was a part of a few years ago, and you read through that,
Mhm.
it's about breaking that taboo. It's about
Yeah.
listening to women, and it's about understanding it. There is, it to me, I sit with my girlfriends, like I'm sure you do, Joe. We'll sit there with a glass of wine in a pub, we'll have a good old chat. And they're like, oh, my back's aching, I feel rubbish, and I keep getting headaches and this and that, and I'm putting on loads of weight. And straight away, 95% of them will go, oh, they put me on citalopram. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you need to go straight back. That's definitely menopause or perimenopause. And then, as I say, with that as well, if you are then, exacerbating these or your symptoms are manifesting in other ways, like mine were, have you got a comorbidity that's an underlying condition that's never been diagnosed or picked up? And as I say, and that's my biggest passion now, is saying to the doctors, look, ADHD is not just a name to be bandied around. Trust me, I do not want this diagnosis. I'd much rather not have it, because it actually, as much as it's made a massive impact in a positive way in my life, it also has negativity as well. Because people look at you going, oh, she's got mental health disorders and bit cuckoo, that kind of thing, don't want to employ her. She might be a little bit sort of off it with this, nefarious.
Being labelled and put in a
Yeah,
box.
absolutely. And, well, and I'm going through that now. My ex-husband, I emailed him the other day and I said, you need to understand my condition. For you to be able to comment on whether you think I'm stable or I'm not, or, anything else, you need to understand it. And there is not enough understanding out there. Family courts, solicitors, employers, all these different things. And I think, women's health strategy has been brilliant. We've highlighted it. We've got women in the workplace now, a lot of those kind of incentives being implemented in, a lot of big companies. They're having experts come in and talk to them about, women's health and around the menopause, and setting up private areas they can go and have solace and a bit of peace time. But, we are still battling other conditions as well. And that's my biggest.
When you were diagnosed ADHD, when's the first time you heard that you were like the classic case? Who told you? How did you discover it? What could ladies look out for, thinking if they've got a thought in the back of their head that they may be?
Okay, well, it happened 18 months ago. It was the summer holidays. It was the tail end of the summer holidays. My ex-husband and I were sharing the twins, and I'd just come out of a relationship with my ex-partner, probably about 2 years ago, actually, and he was making my life hell, to be frank. He was not and he wasn't particularly nice, and and he decided to just launch this massive attack on me. I had a letter through one day from the court saying that he was going to do this and that and everything else, and I had the children with me. Was supposed to be having the next 2 weeks with them, and again, I suppose rejection sensitivity dysphoria, part of my ADHD, which I didn't know at the time. I saw this letter, and all it was criticism, putting me down like that. And I just went, I can't cope with this. You need to go to your dad's. You have to go to your dad's. So I texted my ex-husband and said, I need help. You need to take the children. I can't cope with it. I'm dealing with all this stuff that's going on. I'm new job as well. I was getting into my new role. And it was just, I think, the pressure that just like that. And so I asked him to come and pick the kids up, and that was it. So we then had to then go back to court to sort of deal with, child arrangement orders and everything else. And at that point, the judge said, you seem to be very emotional, Miss Murchison. And I said, well, I am. Of course I am. I'm self-representing. My ex-husband's here with barristers, lawyers, and God knows what else. I've got CAFCAS, who've got barristers, lawyers, and God knows what else. I've got you, and there's just me, myself, and I. And, I'm self-representing. But at that time as well, I also didn't know I had ADHD. I was just a mum who was struggling with the menopause and everything else. Again, didn't know all of that. And it was all
So
just
you didn't know you were perimenopausal either?
No, it'd been suggested actually in a conversation with my GP that maybe I was going through menopause, but to be honest with you, Joe, didn't take much notice of it. You know, at that point in my life, I was just, I don't know what was going on actually. Looking back now, my head was very cloudy. I don't think I had any clarity. I didn't have any sort of straightforward answers. I was just muddling through. I was in a relationship I wasn't happy in. I was trying to end it, and it was just becoming tumultuous. It was horrendous. And it all just came to a head. So it was at that point the court said, right, I think, we need to get a child psychologist involved for the children, but also a psychologist for the parents. Let's find out about the family dynamics. And it was only through having that discussion with the court psychologist, who, to be honest with you, that's a different story. But he did actually say, I think that, Kelly could benefit from having cognitive analytical therapy, not behavioural therapy, analytical therapy. And it's very different. CBT is obviously what's recommended by the Women's Health Strategy. And a lot of women get offered that if they're menopausal. I was advised to take CAT. And it's a very, very different process. And it's basically reformulation and reprogramming your mind and your brain. But it's going right back to your childhood. And it's like, why do you do certain things the way you do? Yeah, basically, it's like reformulation and recoding your whole brain. So I just thought, whatever, nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. I'm okay. I just needed a bit of a break. I've just had a bit of a breakdown kind of thing. But actually, it was being almost pushed into having to do this for the court process. I then found myself a cognitive analytical therapist. Wanted to have someone who was in London, because that's where I was working at the time. I thought I can dip in and out when I'm working. And I stumbled across my psychotherapist, who was a psychiatric nurse specialist as well, had all the credentials. And it was literally within that first 10-minute conversation I had with him, he just sat back and went, have you ever been diagnosed with ADHD? Has anybody ever mentioned it to you? And I went, no. And he went, ADHD, definitely. Classic symptoms. And I was like, do you really think so? I said, but that can't be right. I said, because I've worked in, child psychiatry before for 2 years. I've worked with methylphenidate. It was one of the drugs I worked with. And surely I must have known the symptoms in myself. And he went, absolutely not. He said, adults present very differently. Women, adults present completely differently. He said, the classic textbook is naughty child at school, inattentive, troublemaker in the classroom, friendships breaking up, And he said, what was your childhood like? He said, were you naughty at school? I went, no, never. I was an A-star student. He went, there you go then. He said, from that day dot, you were masking your symptoms. He said, did you struggle to be like as good as your friendships, your friends? I went, yeah. I said, I would always be like the one that would have to really focus more on getting to grips with something. Or if a teacher set us a task, some people just pick it up like that. But for me, I'd have to have it repeated to me, or they'd have to sit down and go through it with me a few times before I understood it. He went, ADHD. I said, yeah, but I wasn't naughty. I wasn't blurting out. He went, but girls don't. He said, that's the trouble. He said, that's the trouble. People don't understand the differences with men and women and girls and boys with ADHD. They manifest so differently.
And then it's presented itself more when your hormones are fluctuating. Because I know so many ladies who've been diagnosed since they hit perimenopause because it's manifested itself.
And it comes with pressure. If you look at all the clinical data as well, and you look at all the studies that have been conducted by global experts on this, you will see that a lot of it manifests the minute a woman has a baby. And it's not just the hormonal fluctuations or changes. It's the fact that because now you're not just managing your own day or your own diary, you're now having to make decisions on behalf of somebody else. You're now having to deal with after school clubs, swimming clubs, cricket, football, dancing lessons. Mum, can I have a play date? Mum, can I have friends around? Mum, what's for dinner? And it's like, you're just like, oh my God, leave me alone. I can't cope. And literally, that is.
And you had double bubble as well with twins.
Yeah. And my ex-husband, he had an affair as well. So he left when they were very young, from the sort of the age of 18 months. He just disappeared. He was.
So you had that to deal with as well.
So, and I did I masked that for a year as well. So he was never at home every night. He'd come
home. Did you know it was happening? Or did you just think he was at work?
Do you know what, Jo? I had my suspicions, but I didn't want to be confronted with the reality.
You had enough going on.
Of course, I knew that he was having an affair. He was going out every night. You know, he'd come home, have a bath, squirt loads of aftershave on, make himself look amazing, and then go, I'm going round to my friends tonight. We're going to go and chill out for an hour. Really? Okay. You know, of course I knew, but there was, I just didn't want to confront him with it because I didn't want to have that, yes, I've met somebody else, because it's the rejection side, being rejected. I had these 2 young babies. We'd just gone and bought this big house where we were financially committed, the pair of us.
It's like burying your head in the sand to protect yourself.
Definitely.
So many women do that.
100%. And I think, you know, that this is another thing I would say to women. You know, looking back now, if I could look back and see myself sitting there, I just want to go back and give myself a big hug and say, you know, it's going to be all right. You can get through this, but don't stay just because you don't think you've got another option, because there's always going to be other options. And the amount of friends I've lost as a result of staying, you know, because they all told me to go and they were like, I don't know why you're putting up with it. But, you know, I was thinking, well, I have a nice life, haven't I?
But they're not true friends if they didn't understand and then see you coming out the other end. I mean, we can all say, you know, I wish you'd have listened to me. But if you're a good friend, you're still there for them at the end of the day, aren't you?
I mean, I had friends who obviously tried from day dot to sort of like say to me, Kelly, you know, you need to get out. You could do so much better. But I think, you know, when you're suffering with postnatal depression, your hormones are crashing, you're a geriatric mum, because I was, by this point, I was 40 years of age, you know, with these 2 young babies.
Geriatric, so I relate to that twice.
You know. Oh, geriatric mum. I love that saying. And, you know, you're trying to keep your job going because you financially, you're probably the main breadwinner, which I was. I was the one that was bringing in the lion's share of the money. Big 5-bedroom house, you know, that needed a lot of work doing to it. We had all these plans. And you've got this constant, you know, peer pressure to be the perfect mum, to attend all the, you know, the coffee mornings in John Lewis's with the babies, and, you know, to go to the, you know, the baby massage groups and the this and the that. And I look back now and I think, what on earth was I doing, you know? How on earth, why did I not just sit down and go, I just need help? But I didn't, because that's not me. I just did not want to accept that I was failing in any way. And I've been told as well, you know, little comments like from my mum about when she saw the twins, or they're like little rats. I'd been told by my ex-husband as well, you know, oh, you're a shit mum. You know, you couldn't even carry them to full term. All this, all this kind of stuff. The pressure was just intense.
Oh God, you
know,
I mean, that could have led to anything more sinister, you know. The suicide is really high in ladies our age going through stuff like that, and comments like that.
I was there. You know, I did. I did. I contemplated it, and thank God my manager was there that day and pulled me away and said, "Right, let's go for coffee. I'm worried about you."
The day you're on stage and had
at the Royal Free, and it was him that. And I remember coming home. My mum was looking after the twins actually. Again, bless her, she was always drafted in at the 11th hour, and I just came in. I just literally sat on the hall room floor and just burst my eyes, you know, burst into tears and went, I can't cope. I need help. I've been, you know, my manager doesn't want to see me at work for at least 2 to 3 weeks. He wants me to go and get help. And I made that call to my GP, you know, and that was when I was diagnosed with postnatal depression. But again, that was the right time at that time to be put on citalopram. So I was on citalopram for that reason. But then I then stayed on it. I continued on it. And then obviously my life started to get a little bit better. And I, you know, job was fine. I was getting back up and running. I was getting divorced. And, you know, I was starting to sort of see a bit of wood for the trees. You know, I could sort of see light at the end of the tunnel. But there was still so much pressure as well. Court cases, battling over children, divorces, finances, all this pressure. You know, and I look back now and I think, oh my God, you know, how did I actually cope? It is literally a miracle that I haven't got a headstone and I'm still here, because the amount of times where I've just sat cried my eyes out and thought, that's it, I'm done, I've had enough. And not even having pictures of my children, you know, on my desk would have done anything. It didn't matter, it was irrelevant. I was in such a bad place.
People have told me when they've had those thoughts that at that time of feeling that way, you convinced that everyone's going to be better off without you.
Better off without you, yeah. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it hard to put myself in that situation when, because I've had friends who've been suicidal. I'm like, well, how can you think that, knowing that the devastation you're going to leave behind? And they're like, Joe,
No, you don't
at the
think about that.
time, I think their life's going to flourish without me because I'm
Yeah.
the one that's the bad cog in it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's hard to put yourself in that frame of mind when you've never experienced it.
And I think as well, Joe, you know, my marriage, my ex-husband, I suppose, again, when I first got with him, we'd been school friends for years, and he was a real charmer at school. He was like the school crush. So, of course, I then suddenly got with him, you know, in our 20s, and everyone was like, oh, wow, you're with Andrew, are you? Oh, wow, you know. And I was a bit of an ego boost for me. You know, I was a bit like, you know, I've like bagged the school crush, you know, the school hunk. But he wasn't good for me. We were not good for each other. We were very toxic. So we should never have got married. We should never, ever have even entertained the idea of getting married or having children. You know, and it's been an uphill struggle since then, really. It's been like treading treacle at times, and I still am going through it. You know, it's not having to, he's quite a dominating character. That's just the way that he is with his family and the way that his dad was. And again, you were saying about cyclical cycles. You know, I was very much coerced in my marriage. It's not until now I've been able to come out of it and have my own time to think with my own home, my own front door, not having to think, oh, I need to stay with this person because it's financially better for me, or because I don't want to be on my own. I don't want to go to that Christmas party on my own, or we've got this wedding invite coming up. I don't want to go on my own. The last 18 months for me actually has probably been the making of me. And that's why when I found your group as well, you know, I really want to share my experiences, because I want to say to those women out there.
You do in your comments, you know, your comments are really inspirational. When ladies post on there with their problems and you come in with your comments of things that you've been through, I was like, oh, thank you, Kelly. That's so nice, because ladies need to hear it, that there is a light. And even though you're not quite there yet with the courts and everything, look where you are now. You're happy, aren't you? You're back to the Kelly. Are you back to the Kelly? Well, you'll never be the Kelly without kids, but you're back to the Kelly who's happy with Kelly.
Do you know
Am I right?
what, Joe? 100%. And I think for me as well, the last 18 months has been my journey. It's been the Kelly that maybe was always there, but always had some background battles going on from childhood, from the age of 9, from when my hormones started, you know, where we've started on this journey. And I think, you know, I'm now at a place in my mind where I feel, yeah, okay, it's difficulties going on with my children and with my ex-husband and having to deal with him, and he's a very different, you know, he's a difficult character to deal with. But that's all being dealt with separately. But you know what? I'm in a good place now. I'm self-sufficient. I've got my own front door. Who I choose to invite in is down to me. I don't need to be, you know, answer to anybody. I've got my career and my job, which I love. I adore my children, you know, and I want them to have a really good, nurtured mum around them, you know, one that can cuddle them, and they never have to fear about anything. They should be able to come to me about anything, you know. I'm never going to be judging them.
You can break that cycle from them not being like their dad and their granddad.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? People might sit here and think, oh, no, you're criticising their dad a lot here, Kelly. I'm not criticising him at all. I actually feel a massive amount of empathy and sorrow for him, because he grew up in a childhood where his dad was bringing Andrew up because that's what his dad brought him up like. And it's a cyclical cycle. And again, it goes back to what you were saying earlier on about, this is probably our generation now. We're breaking those chains. There is no stiff upper lip, you know, never complain, never explain. I mean, look at the Queen, bless her. You know, I loved the Queen. She was such an iconic figure. But her motto was never explain, never complain. But we've now
Hasn't
got
it?
William and Kate and even King Charles, who is going, I've got cancer. You know what? I'm just a human being. I need to share my journey with you. And it's making other people think, well, if you can do it, then I can do it as well. And I
Yeah,
think this is what we need to break that cycle in this world for, because we've tried it the old way, where you
yeah.
don't say anything and you lock up your problems, and wow, it's now haunting us. We're
Yeah,
now the generation that's suffering as a result of that. So as you said earlier on, the next generation is our responsibility. We might not get it right for ourselves at the moment, but we can certainly make sure we get it right for our kids moving forward. And this is why I wanted to come on here today to share my journey about ADHD, because I don't want people to think, oh, it's this tag. Be loud and proud. Tom Hanks
yeah,
has got it. If you look at a list of so many successful people in this world who have come out and gone, I've got it, I've got ADHD. They've made a successful career out of having it.
yeah,
We're
definitely.
actually very inspirational, we're very entrepreneurial, we're great empathists. We
Yeah.
do overshare a lot, which is what I'm doing now. We do tend to open up our hearts and wear our hearts on our sleeves and probably say too much. But I just think, why not?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I've been told that I've got ADHD. I haven't been
Probably have.
diagnosed,
I think a lot of us have
but
all
yeah,
got
I've been
something,
told I'm a classic case. I'm definitely dyslexic. I haven't been diagnosed with that either, but my two boys have been
Dyslexic.
diagnosed. Yeah,
Dyslexic, yeah, yeah.
my two
Well,
boys have been diagnosed with dyslexia, and their struggles that they're having, I had all the same ones at school
yeah,
as well. So
yeah.
I
Well,
obviously
my
was.
daughter, I would put my last penny on the fact that my daughter's got it. She sent a
Yeah,
video to me the other day. She went, Mum, she went, I keep leaving my school books everywhere. She says, I put them down somewhere, then I forget where I've put them. And
yeah,
then, I can see it in herself. She's very hyperactive, very animated. I'm like, Tilly, you are cut from the same cloth, She's
yeah,
my daughter. But again, to give people hope here, my partner, he's a cardiothoracic transplant surgeon. He's also a consultant radiologist. He's got dyslexia. You
see, there
know,
you go.
he
And I
only
tell
got
my boys,
diagnosed 2 years ago.
look at Alan Sugar.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah,
Virgin
yeah.
guy. What's his name?
Richard
Got his name?
Branson. Richard
Richard Branson.
Branson. Yeah, he's got
And they
it.
say
Yeah,
even Einstein, they reckon,
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
either dyslexic or ADHD or both. So
100%.
I saw on the news this morning, Jamie Oliver. I don't know if you saw it on
Oh, he's
Breakfast.
probably got it as well. Has he got ADHD?
He's got dyslexia. No, he's got
There you
dyslexia,
go.
and he's now trying to change the rules in teaching when that they learn through their teaching degree all about dyslexia and making the classrooms, more,
Yeah. Well,
for ADHD and dyslexia and everything. So things are
this
changing.
is, you know what? This is exactly why my partner went into surgery. Because he said surgery, you work with your hands. It's a very methodical approach. He said, and I can think with my brain, and he can plumb a heart in and a lung in like I can put a battery in a clock. That's how quick he is and how good he is at doing that, because that's the way his brain works.
Yeah.
And then he decided to move into radiology because it was more family focused. It was better time, because transplant surgery, you get called out all hours of the morning, and it's not great when you've got young families. So he wanted to change his career. So he decided to move into radiology. And it was only when he was taking the examinations at the RCR, which is really intensive, he kept misjudging questions. And they said to him at the Academic Institute of Medicine, they were like, have you ever been, tested for dyslexia? And he was like, no. And he said, no, he goes, it's because I'm Sri Lankan. Maybe I just don't understand it. They went, no. They went, you do understand it, but you're just missing out things. And we just think you maybe need to be tested. And he got tested. And they went, yeah, he's got a neurodiverse dyslexia. So, that's the practical part of it, the visual side of things. Say, transplants, putting, stents in people's hearts, all that kind of stuff, dead easy to him. But the written side of it,
Well, that's what
he
Jamie
really
Oliver
struggled with.
was saying. He was saying if kids could listen instead of having to read questions and read
Yeah,
things, if they could hear it in audio, and then instead of having to write it, if they could talk into a
yeah,
dictaphone or a dictator to write
yeah,
it, they would do just as well, if not better than everyone else. Just the fact that they
100%.
struggle to read it and struggle to write it has nothing to do with their
100%.
intelligence.
Do you know what, Jo? For my job, I have to sort of study all this kind of stuff, and I have to be honest that the tabs here are bits in the book where it's visual. The written bits, I just find it boring. I struggle with it. So, we are all so different. We're all different, but we're all unique in our own ways. And I think it's just about finding and navigating our way through that. It's like following a road map, and then all of a sudden the road that you're following, it comes to a dead end, or that wasn't expected, or Google Maps has run out. You have to find a diversion. You've got to find a way around it. And this is how I sort of see my life now. I don't see it as a negative. I think actually this is a positive, because I've now got a diagnosis and I can deal with it. I'm on medication. It's always going to be a tricky one. Do you tell your employer? Do you not? They're probably going to watch this now going, oh, I didn't know that she had ADHD. But, you have to be yourself, because I think if you're not yourself, how can you be happy? You can't be happy, can you?
You've got to be authentically you, and don't be ashamed of it. And, this is this is how you are. And look at you now, you're happy. You got a lovely partner, like you said.
I have, yeah.
You're in the pink stage, aren't you, at the moment? All that, and all that.
Do you know what?
Libido's back.
He's just, I've been so fortunate. As I say, talking about relationships as well, looking back now, relationships, I suppose, you kind of get drawn to a certain character type and a certain person. And I think actually, a lot of the people that I've been with have had insecurities of their own, like my ex-husband. He's got issues that he needs to deal with from his childhood. That's not my problem. My problem is my journey. My ex-partner, who was just horrendous, he's got massive insecurities that he needs to deal with. Men are different. They don't actively go and have conversations like you and I are having now. I could never imagine a man sitting doing a podcast like this.
No.
And well, some do, but it's quite a rarity. And I think they should, more people should come forward. But it's like tea and toast, isn't it? We sit down, we open up, and we just converse to our girlfriends. And it's the girl power thing,
It is a girl power. And this is what I want from Jo's chat. This is why I've been toying with the idea of doing a podcast for many, many months. And I was like, oh, wait till I have the right equipment, wait till I've got the right microphone, wait till I've got the right setting, wait for this, wait for this. I need to do it now. I don't need
go with it.
Yeah, I can make it better as I go along, So that's why I did it.
I just think what you've done is remarkable. And say I've seen your group grow in numbers over the last few months.
10 to 20 ladies every day joining, and not just joining, but staying and chatting in there and being active in there. And so I've got things in the pipeline as well that's coming to the group to make it even better. So there's stuff going on in the background, and I can't wait to share.
I feel quite privileged to be part of that journey with you and to share it, because I've got such a massive passion with women's health. My partner said to me, you should go into politics, Kelly. You should go into the Houses of Parliament. And
why not?
Well, I've had I've sat with Dame Leslie Reagan, who's the government ambassador. She put the women's health strategy together. She was a colleague of mine, and her and I have sat there before. And I love the strapline. She always says, if we get it right for women, society benefits.
Oh, absolutely.
It says it in a nutshell, doesn't it? We have such a massive part in this world, and we are not living in the era of the suffragettes. We are way beyond that. We have to think about what those women did to give us this right to talk like this. So we have that responsibility to carry on that legacy from the suffragettes. They gave us a platform. Absolutely. And I love your green and purple, and I'm guessing that's why it's green and purple for that reason. And I just think, we need to get it out there. And ladies, don't be ashamed. If you're suffering, if you're suffering, go and get some help. If the doctor doesn't take you for seriousness, go and see another GP. Just say when you make that phone call and pick up that phone and you speak to the receptionist, who can be quite frosty, let's be honest, they can be. Just say, I want to talk to someone about women's health. I need to speak to someone about my hormones.
Yeah.
You know, and if your nominated doctor is a male doctor and you don't think you're going to get anything from that conversation, don't waste his 7 minutes or yours. Seek the help of someone in that practice who can talk to you about your menopause or your hormones.
The majority of practices now have at least one person who's trained in menopause, so need to advocate yourself and go there educated. That's another reason why I've got my group, is so the ladies can get educated, they can track their symptoms, they can go with proof of their symptoms on paper and be strong and know what they're talking about, rather than sit there and be told something that's not right and then they don't know any different, and they just go, oh, I don't know.
Exactly.
So
you know,
I was going to say something then, I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I've been whittling on, haven't I, here?
Well, no, this is chat is for you anyway, but I had something in my head that you said that made me think it, and then I've lost track. Anyway.
That's the menopause, Jo. That's brain fog.
Menopause, it is. My brain fog, if I don't get 7 hours sleep, my brain fog is worse. So I think last night...
That's another story for me. I think if I get 4 hours sleep with him, you know, but that's
you
just
need
me.
to work. You need to make that a priority, please, Kelly. Promise me you'll make sleep a priority, because with minimum 7 hours sleep, lots of other things just fall into place.
The health benefits as well. You know, again, I get that from my partner. The cardiovascular risks. I'm like, I know. But, you know, it's just we're all great at giving out advice, but are we brilliant at following our own advice? Probably not.
My kids say that to me all the time when they see me do something as against my own advice. They go, "You wouldn't tell your ladies to do that."
Exactly. I know, but honestly, Jo, you know, just I'm so privileged to be part of this journey with you, and you know, and I just think, you know, all those
retreats as well. That would be nice in the future.
Oh my goodness gracious, I would absolutely love to do that so much, and I will be there. May can't be there; it's not possible because of the whole juggling around with the new drug launch and stuff. But do you know what? I'll be definitely there on the next one, because I just think this is not just like, oh, you know, we're women, we're all in this, we've just got this one connection, it's the menopause that's connected us. It's not. We have got our own personalities, and we're women who have just got we just want some answers, you know. We just want to be all in this journey together with some answers, and if we can all help each other.
Learn that self-care isn't selfish, you know.
Exactly.
Keep our cup full, then we can fill all our families and our friends' cups as well.
Exactly. But you know what, guys, if anybody's out there who's struggling with their hormones, or they think they've got ADHD, my inbox is always open. You know, you can always DM me or go through Jo. I might not have the answers, but I can certainly sit and have a cup of tea with you on a Teams call, and we can put the world to right. Because, you know, just go and get help. You know, don't suffer in silence, and don't try and be a hero. We've all got our own unique stories and our own unique journeys, and we just all have to be there for each other.
Yeah,
definitely. You know, wear your crowns with pride, ladies.
I love that. Well, thank you, Kelly. Thanks for giving up your time, a whole hour of your time today. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
And I'll see you back in the group.
Thanks, Jo. You take care.
Have a lovely rest of your day.
Bye, guys. Bye. Bye.